Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever time you happen to be watching this update, if you're live with us right now, it is officially 5:03 Central Time, 6:03 Eastern. If you're watching back later on, whenever, that's your prerogative. We will always be delivering great commentary, building this community, talking about what's going on in the state of Tennessee and what's going on at the federal level as well. If you have stumbled across this program for the very first time, my name is Grant Henry, Grassroots Engagement Director with Americans for Prosperity here in Middle Tennessee, and this is the AFP Weekly Update. This week in particular, you'll see either right over here or there or maybe down there, depending on where you're watching, if it's on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook. Somewhere on this screen, you'll see the title for this week, $4 trillion infrastructure program. And who was it that said infrastructure is a French word for everything but roads? I think that's Grover Norquist that said that. And it's true. It's very true. Infrastructure is nothing more than a French word that means nothing at all or everything but roads. Hey, this is what we're doing this week in this program. We're talking a little bit about the infrastructure program package. We're going to be talking a little bit about what's been going on at the state level. An organization called Tennessee Stands had a massive rally out at the Capitol on yesterday, I believe. Senate Bill 187 dealing with vaccines. We're going to get to that a little bit later on in the program. But before we jump in, it's just myself and David Thompson here today. And I'm going to ramble a little bit here more so David can turn his mic on, introduce himself, get the camera going, give everything up and shiny. But as he's getting ready to introduce himself and let us know how things are going out in the Knoxville area, Evernote link. On Facebook, you'll see it right in the description section. On YouTube, you'll see it down here somewhere. If you click to expand the description section of the video, you'll see an Evernote link. Everything we're talking about today is in that Evernote. All the show notes, all the links to the articles I'll be going over, as well as all of the petitions that you can take action on almost everything we will be talking about tonight. With that being said, before we jump into this infrastructure debacle, David, buddy, how are you doing out in Knoxville area? What's been going on with you?
I'm doing well, man. Things are going really great here. There's a lot of exciting things going on. Got some big plans for the summertime that we'll be talking about soon here on this program. But man, like, I thought they just spent a bunch of money. I thought they just spent like all the money. Like, didn't they just spend all the money? Like
all of the money everywhere. Yes,
yeah, I mean, they increased the money supply like 24% last year.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what's going on in this thing. I was telling you before, I was talking to everybody before the stream started, and I was saying, man, I don't even know what's going on in here. And even if I had some notes, you can't get notes on what, I don't know, what is it, 1.9 trillion?
It's 1.9 trillion. I've heard 2.4 trillion. I've heard up to 4 trillion. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the actual figure is.
What is this? I mean, funny money stuff. But anyway, great to see you. Great to be on the program. Hope everybody enjoys tonight.
Let's start there, by the way. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, wherever you so happen to be, the comments will drive this program. I would love to interact with y'all. I would love to see what you think about these topics. Love to know where you're coming from. Put those comments in the comment section. I will always ping back to them. We'll let that really drive. Let's start with this, though. Give me just a second. Here we go. I'm going to try and be unbiased, as unbiased as possible when I'm presenting some of this information. So let's start with a Yahoo Finance article, because why not? It's in the name Yahoo, okay? Here we are. Zoom in a little bit more so you can read along with me. Trying to be unbiased, trying to present this fair, impartial. Here's what's in President Biden's, they say $2 trillion infrastructure plan. I've heard $4 trillion. I've heard Alexander Cortez say $2.75 trillion. I don't know if anyone really knows the accurate number yet. We'll see. President Joe Biden unveiled a $2 trillion economic recovery plan on Wednesday afternoon, which includes raising the corporate tax from 21% to 28%. to help pay for a massive overhaul in America's infrastructure. Not sure that's the best way to pay for it, but whatever. At least they're talking about paying for it somehow, as opposed to just continually printing money. It's a little bit of what David was just talking about. Didn't we just spend $4, $5, $6 trillion over the last couple of months here? I'm kind of tired of having my dollar diluted. Every time we spend this amount of money, I'm making less each year because my dollar is worth less than the year before. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm tired of taking a pay decrease every single year. I feel like I'm pretty good at my job. Going on, it says the proposal called the Americans Job Plan is the first of 2 economic recovery plans the administration plans to roll out over the coming weeks. Biden detailed the infrastructure overhaul on Wednesday in Pittsburgh. And the second plan, which is still yet to come sometime next month, they're going to call the Americans Families Plan. The way they name these, man, is just disingenuous at best. $621 billion apparently to repair and modernize bridges, roads, highways, modernize and expand public transit systems. And pay careful attention to everything that's being explained here, because we're going to look at some of the commentary in a second that breaks it down more. Allegedly $300 billion to boost U.S. manufacturing and strengthen supply chains. $111 billion to ensure safe drinking water. How can you argue with that? $100 billion to expand high-speed broadband access. $100 billion to expand high-speed broadband access. And I want to say that the Trump administration did something fairly similar, except their version was not to use excess government money. It was to repeal restrictions and regulation, to allow the free market to take over, and to allow companies to expand it themselves, to get rid of net neutrality. I'll give you some statistics on how that actually worked in just a second. $100 billion to build more resilient electric grid. You could see the rest of this for yourself. Workforce development programs, research and development for technologies in the future, build and upgrade public schools. Now, getting over to this Evernote link here, this is what you'll see if you click on that Evernote link. Let's go to what we used to call, back in the radio days when David and I did this for a living, the op-ed royale, a response to Biden infrastructure plan. Okay, I'm, again, trying to remain bipartisan here. I'm pulling from a couple different news sections. We're going to go through these and just really dive in to what some of the op-ed commentary is saying about that infrastructure plan that you just looked at. It was a basic breakdown. We have not seen the real language behind this yet. We've just heard the Biden administration loosely lay out what they think the spending might be. Now, here's what the editors in National Review said. As laid out in a 2019 study from 3 economists and a 2020 essay in National Affairs, our infrastructure is in general basically fine. The physical condition of interstate highways has actually improved in recent decades. For example, while buses have gotten younger, on average, the quality of bridges has remained steady. And America looks good in the international context, with admirably low commute times despite increases in congestion and fast broadband. Further, most of America's genuine infrastructure problems are best handled at the state and local level, rather than by having a federal government subsidize politically preferred projects. Now, here, especially in these last couple sentences, is where you would hope you would find some bipartisan pushback on a proposal such as this. I think obviously some conservative, Republican, libertarian types could lean towards the, say, state and local level and see just how good that could be. If you're going to fix a problem, it must be done at the local level. Conversely, on the other side of that political spectrum, you would have to look at this and say, rather than having federal government subsidize the politically preferred projects, how often do I hear individuals from, say, the left-leaning side talk about corporate welfare, pet projects, earmarks, carve-out programs, things where governments are picking winners and losers, where select individuals are picking the way that this money should and should not be spent. I detest it as much as they do. You would hope they would detest it in this bill, but I've yet to see that commentary. Here's something from the New York Post. If you take the $2 trillion cost at face value and combine it with the $1.9 trillion Biden, the Democrats, already spent in their COVID relief bill, most of which had nothing to do with COVID relief, pause here.
Yeah, pause for me to say, I told you, we already spent all the money. We already spent it all, man.
Right? Most of which had nothing to do with COVID relief. This is a similar symptom you will probably see and hear much more about as it pertains to this infrastructure spending package, meaning how much of the $2 trillion to $4 trillion proposed will actually be spent on road projects, very little going forward, saying we're talking $31,758 of new spending for every household in the United States. That's more than all the wealth of all the nation's billionaires put together. And that's on top of our annual $4.48 trillion budget. And before you add in another $2 trillion in education, childcare, and social program spending reportedly on the way soon. This person says, given that the median household income in the United States was $65,712 before the pandemic, Biden is on his way to blowing through an entire year's budget for every family in the country. When the president calls this a once-in-a-generation investment, he means that after he's done, we will be broke for a generation. finalizing here. Mr. Biden proposes to build broadband infrastructure. This is the statistic I was telling you about a second ago in the way that the Trump administration did this previously compared to how the Biden administration is proposing to do it through this plan. What is that it? Building out communications, building out broadband, building out 5G, any of this stuff. Here, Wall Street Journal says, Mr. Biden proposes to build broadband infrastructure in unserved and undeserved areas by subsidizing government-owned and nonprofit networks. But the Trump Federal Communications Commission unleashed private broadband investment by liberating providers from the Obama net neutrality rules, streamlining regulations and limiting how much cities could extort them to install 5G sites. In 2019, providers built over 46,000 cell sites. That was up from a mere 708 in 2016. Simply by removing regulations and letting private industry use its assets, they increased from 708 cell sites in 2016 to 46,000 cell sites in 2019. Going on to say, Mr. Biden is also redefining infrastructure as a social justice policy and income redistribution. He promises that 40% of climate and clean investment to disadvantaged communities defined in part by race and tie federal spending to union prevailing wages. His plan also includes $213 billion for affordable housing, $100 billion for retrofitting public schools, $25 billion for child care facilities, and $400 billion for increasing home health care. Now, the reason why this author in particular at the Wall Street Journal, the editorial board, stresses this material is to make this final point, noting the political irony of all this, basically saying that Mr. Biden says that public investment has fallen as a share of the economy since the 1960s. And I guess they say he has a point. But the main reason is that the government spending on social welfare entitlements and public unions has squeezed out public works. So essentially what's happening is the Biden administration is attempting to use this plan to redefine social welfare spending as public works spending to drive more social welfare spending. And I go back one more time, Sean, as I'm transitioning into here what Americans for Prosperity feels about this entire thing, what Americans for Prosperity president says. I just went through the Wall Street Journal. I have an article in the show notes from the Washington Post, of all places. Here's the Washington Post headline: Republicans are right to oppose Biden's infrastructure plan, but they must offer an alternative. That's the Washington Post.
That's so weird. What they mean is it's on script. Like, obviously Republicans are going to oppose it. That's what they mean. Like, yeah. Who are they to say who's right and wrong about anything? Just report the news, right? But, like, why do Republicans need an alternative to a $1.9 trillion plan when we just spent $1.9 trillion on bailouts and all kinds of things, right? Mm. I mean, I'm a big don't be the party of no kind of guy. Like, that's a big thing for me. Like, offer solutions. But what is the problem? Nobody's articulating what the problem is. Why we would spend this historic amount of money in such a short amount of time when you go back to the beginning of the pandemic till now. It can't just be oblivious, nebulous, the pandemic. You know, it just can't be that. Tell me what some problems are, and then we can come up, all of us, not just Republican legislators, all of us, because it's a self-governing system, right? We can work on solutions. But don't just say I need $1.9 trillion for, like, putting up cell towers and stuff like that. I mean, just for some context, I think a little bit of it is to, right now the number one, like, builder out of digital infrastructure is China in, like, third world countries and things like that, and maybe a little bit to keep up with that and build up capability so we can provide those services. But I don't believe it costs $1.9 trillion, and you're really getting into picking winners and losers and things like that. When you're talking about that amount of money, you can start, a $100 million company and be a needle in the haystack of that bill, right?
Scott said in Facebook, by the way, David, he said, LOL, meaning laugh out loud, I suppose, we'll be broke for a generation. He was commenting on one of the articles, one of the op-eds said, we'll be broke for a generation. Scott went on to say, we're already broke. Come on. Scott makes a fantastic point, because I feel like I'm going absolutely insane over here, even attempting to talk about the federal spending, the ongoing deficit, and our incredible, absurd debt problem. I mean, I don't think people realize how high the actual national debt is. When we talk about numbers of 28, 29, 30 trillion, and when you add on the unfunded liabilities behind that, it gets to it's such an astronomical number. I don't know how to graph it properly. I don't know how to properly demonstrate how large it is. And I think what Scott means when he says is we'll be broke for a generation. Come on, we're broke already. The idea is we have to figure out how to stop doing some of this stuff. And it leads to the next question, obviously, of well, how do you fund this? What do we do? Are we just printing more money? And obviously, I think the Biden administration says we're going to do something about raising the income tax, but not the income tax, sorry, the corporate tax. But Washington Post is correct. I can't show the thing on the screen. Unfortunately, I'd share the screen so you can believe me, but Washington Post has it paywalled. Here's the headline, though. Republicans are right to oppose infrastructure plan, but they must offer an alternative. And again, I think Americans for Prosperity is seeking to go towards some version of an alternative as opposed to just printing and spending more money that we don't have or increasing taxes in a way that is going to hurt the middle class and those that are least able to afford it. Obviously, Americans for Prosperity objects to a spending proposal like this. And I would like to think that if you followed Americans for Prosperity long enough, you would realize that we are ideologically consistent through and through on any version of spending policy. We did it during the Trump administration. We're doing it now during the Biden administration. If it's bad policy, it's bad policy. But part of this proposal, this infrastructure spending proposal, it would reverse components of President Trump's tax cuts and job acts, which helped keep more people out of terrible situations and allowed them to keep more of what they were earning and contributed more jobs and higher wages. This proposal would also increase taxes that would worsen our already devastated economy. It would hurt workers' wages. It would crush small businesses. And ultimately, these tax increases wouldn't even come close to paying for this new spending. We're talking $4 trillion, or let's call it $2 trillion. It wouldn't come close to paying for it. Additionally,
that's most of the GDP per year,
right?
That's crazy. Like, or at least all the spending since we started the pandemic is like most of a year's GDP. You can't raise taxes enough to liquidate the entire country because most of that money is not even in cash. You know, it's like in assets and things like that. You can't liquidate that, turn it into cash, and give it to other people.
And look, David, aside from just the proposed spending, the infrastructure package, the plan, the Biden administration's proposal, it would implement elements of the PRO Act, what we just got done dealing with, that we're still dealing with now. It would implement elements of the PRO Act, which would make unprecedented, harmful changes to federal labor laws that would ban right-to-work laws. This is the way that Congress works up there. If you can't get it done in the PRO Act because you don't have the funds, well, fine. Just squeeze it through on something else anyways. We'll call it a spending plan.
Or rename it, rebrand it, whatever. Like, they'll work years on things, and that's why we got to all stay involved, pay attention, and active.
Exactly. Aside from that, it's going to implement elements of the Green New Deal by dishing out sweetheart subsidies and carve-outs to politically preferred firms, spending trillions of dollars on unrelated, unnecessary, ineffective programs. So again, we at Americans for Prosperity think that lawmakers should instead be focused on improving roads and bridges and should consider the following reforms as opposed to just spending more money. First and foremost, let's consider preserving federal infrastructure dollars for targeted construction programs, targeted construction projects at a national priority, and putting an end to the practice of spending gas tax revenues on non-highway projects. What a novel idea that would be. If you're going to use gas tax money for something that's not related to infrastructure spending, we've lost the plot. So let's get back to a situation where if you're going to do something with roads and bridges and infrastructure, that's what we're doing. Target it. Make it as localized as possible. Stop the practice of using gas tax revenue on non-highway related projects. Second, let's unleash private investment in infrastructure assets, just like the Trump administration did previously when we're talking about the build out of broadband. We can do more of that. Return power and responsibility back to the states wherever possible. We can see what will end up happening, just like we just saw what happened through some of these COVID relief bailout programs. If you spend trillions upon trillions of dollars, again, this is where I cannot explain properly how large of a number that is. Within $1 trillion, however, under the hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that would get lost in the way. Literally, you could have hundreds of millions of dollars that would get lost through the tracks that you couldn't track down to properly show that it wasn't spent on what it was supposed to be spent on. Returning that power and responsibility back to the states wherever possible would not just help localize the solution, but would put it back in the power back in the hands of the people that actually know what the proper solution should be. Fourth, overhauling the regulatory and permitting system to improve outcomes and efficiency. And lastly here, eliminating costly and unfair labor restrictions. And again, I would urge everyone to go into the Evernote links. Actually, let's do this live time here so I can just show everybody what I'm talking about when you pull this up. It's going to look a little bit weird on your screen, but it is what it is. You're seeing a Facebook inside of a Facebook now. I know, and it's a repeat of my face. It's weird.
Facebook Inception.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a Facebook Inception. But if you open this up, it looks similar on YouTube, or if you're watching over there on Twitch, it looks very similar on Twitch. Where my mouse is hovering right here in the top right-hand version of the screen, you may see it like this. If you click the See More button, you're going to see it like this little blue link. If you click on that blue link, it opens up to the weekly show notes. So myself and the AFP Tennessee team, we put a lot of time and effort in putting these show notes together. And it's just everything we just went through. You'll see the op-ed Royale notes right here. You'll see some of the links to the Washington Post articles right here. You'll see an Americans for Prosperity statement by President Tim Phillips. You'll also go all the way down here and see some notes on the state bills that we're going to get to here in just a minute. But at the very top, right here, right underneath the title, you'll see Tell Washington, reject Biden's tax and spend infrastructure plan in 2 ways you can take action today if you want to. Notaroadsbill.com. Notaroadsbill.com will send you right here. It's a letter to your legislators. It goes directly to your legislator, to your representative in both houses of Congress. Put in some basic information down there and hit send. It will send this letter to them expressing how you feel about this infrastructure program. The second way you can take action is a very interesting way right here, and I'll do it live for you, live time, so you see how easy it is. Freeroots.com, not a roads bill. You click on that link, it takes you here, okay? Some basic information. I'm sure you just saw this go through. But it's one of the easiest ways to take action on social media. Let me show you how easy this is live time. If you click take action, this tweet is already ready. I mean, it's literally already prepared. It's tagging POTUS, Senator Hagerty and Marsha Blackburn, and Tim Burchett. All of my reps out here, I think those are actually David reps in East Tennessee, but it is what it is. It's tagging all the proper people, the President of the United States, both my senators and my House rep. And if I literally hit open in Twitter, it will open the Twitter account. All I have to do is literally from here, just hit tweet. And it's done.
Look at it. Isn't it amazing?
It is amazing.
Isn't it
it's tweeted out right there. That's how easy it is to take action. Now, everybody's properly tagged on Twitter. You can do it like yourself. Share it with your friends and family. That's how easy it is to take action with Americans for Prosperity.
So easy.
David, before we move on.
It's amazing.
Before we move on to state issues, anything else you want to tag on the back end here, talking about the infrastructure spending plan?
If you go to sleep on any of these, they'll just do another one.
Yeah.
I mean, the boldness to do the bailout, not long ago, and then to come out with this infrastructure plan right after, they had a big, well, not like a defeat, but a roadblock with the PRO Act. If they need more losses so that they don't get so bold. The they is very nebulous there. This isn't a partisan statement. It's like people who want to do these things that I don't like them doing, picking winners and losers, making us broke in the future. We have to take, basically what I'm coming to is you have to take action. You got to let your representatives know how you feel, because guaranteed the people who want the infrastructure bill, they're contacting their legislators. They're contacting the White House. They are. They're very organized. And we've heard from reps, local Tennessee reps and federal reps. They get stuff from the other side all day,
right?
All day. They get it.
Yeah.
And they really need to hear from you. So use the letter to the legislator link in the Evernote link, or the Free Roots to tweet. It really makes a difference. And, some of these people are going to be fighting for you for the next 4 years saying no to this stuff and trying to come up with ideas, and they're going to need fuel from you. So get in there. Get in the fight.
Kelly says on Facebook, by the way, man, I miss you guys. Kelly, we miss you too. Let me pause on that comment because Kelly is a part of this old crew that David and I used to operate with on the old school radio days, and we really are hoping to bring that same sense of community here to Americans for Prosperity. I say this in sincerity. I want to be vulnerable with y'all. I want y'all to be vulnerable with me. I want to grow with each other. I want to get to know each other. I really want to have an exchange of dialogue. I want to get in debate possibly on this program with people in the comments section. We're going to introduce a call-in line possibly next week as well, so you can voice your comments live with us while we're talking here. I want to do this stuff live time with y'all and really get to know you. Kelly's an incredible person living out in the East Tennessee area. We miss y'all too, Kelly, is what I'm saying. So Scott said, by the way, right on, empower the private sector. We can make money, not lose it. And the government, like the government, that's true. Let's go on now to a state issue here. And oddly enough, it's one that Kelly just brought up. You'll see it posted in the Facebook section here. So this group, Tennessee Stands, had a rally yesterday pertaining to a vaccine bill. The bill is Senate Bill 187. I believe I'm going to probably get that wrong. I'll pull this up here in a second just so everybody can see. 187 it is. Senate Bill 187. And Tennessee Stands is a group that I'm sure some people have heard of before, but let me just sort of zoom in here in just a second. We'll go through the article together so we can all get caught up. Here we go. Vaccine medical exemption bill passes Senate committee with support from across the state. Look at all of them right there. On Wednesday, March 13th, Senate Bill 187 passed in the Senate Health and Welfare Committee and will now move on to the Senate Calendar Committee. SB 187 would keep Tennesseans from being forced to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. This bill prohibits state and local authorities from forcing, requiring, or coercing a person to receive an immunization or vaccine for COVID-19 against the person's will. Now, I bring this up here just so everybody realizes Americans for Prosperity Tennessee has nothing to do with this bill. We didn't go out there and promote it. We weren't talking to legislators about it. We did not lobby for or against this thing. This has nothing to do with us. But I bring this up because of this picture you're looking at on your screen right now. I bring this up to tell a quick story about the power of grassroots movements. Let me show you all one more time, everybody that was out there yesterday. So this is what you're looking at. I don't know, a couple hundred people out there. This is even just one picture. It's from Tennessee Stands Twitter account right here. Thank you, Mark Pody, Representative Griffey for out there. Passed the Senate with a vote of 8-1. Now, I realize Tennessee Stands...
You should point out, too, that that's not normal for the Tennessee legislature. That's a very, like, once in a legislative session per year do you get maybe something like that.
Right?
Normally, it's like 8, 10, 15, 20 tops with, like, matching T-shirts and stuff, you know. But that is... It's not abnormal. It's the wrong word. It's like extra normal. You know,
it is.
For to have that many people at the legislature on one specific bill. So props to them. I mean, it's if you don't realize it out there, this is newsworthy because it's like out of the ordinary. So I just giving everybody that context. They maybe with all the protests and things like that, you see a lot of people with signs at the White House and stuff. At state legislators, like in Nashville, it's not normal, and good for them for getting out there. And Grant's going to show, and that you can see the results. You see the results.
And so I'm sitting at this time while this rally is going on that you're looking at right now. I'm going to keep this picture up here for just a little bit more so you can see the magnitude of people that came out here and understand the power of a grassroots movement and understand the setting behind this bill. Senate Bill 187 was that as of 2 or 3 days ago, this bill was not supposed to go anywhere. It wasn't supposed to pass. It had no chance. It certainly didn't have a chance in the House because it died a couple times already in the House. Different versions of it already died in the House. But then this happened. And at this time, where my mouse is, I'm somewhere way over here. The legislative building, Cordell Hall, right across the street. And I'm meeting with a guy named Senator Frank Nicely. I don't know. It's around 2:30, something to the next extent. And we're sitting there talking about something totally unrelated. And he looks out of the corner of his eye. He's on the 7th floor and has this incredible view of the Capitol. And all of these folks start streaming down these stairs like a little waterfall. And it forces all of us, myself and Tori, our state director, it forces everybody in the room to divert what we were talking about and have a conversation specifically about what that was. What are they doing? What's going on?
I tell you this story just to give you the true impact of what grassroots movement can do in ways that you may not understand and may not think about. It's not just about showing up in droves. It's not just about the photos. It's not just about Fox 17 coming out. It's not just about the emails and the phone calls. It's not just about flooding the hallways during the vote. It's also about the things you can't see and don't know, where other people, totally unrelated, are having conversations with senators, and we're forced to talk about this. You've now created an organic viral moment, an organic groundswell, something that the whole building is forced to discuss, even if they didn't receive a call from you, even if they didn't receive an email from you. Do you get what I'm saying? There's power in seeing streams of people coming down those stairs when I'm talking to another senator, and then we start talking about why are they there? I fill him in on it. Then we start talking about the bill. Then they start talking about ways to take action. Then he starts talking about people he's heard from. And now all of a sudden we're having a grassroots conversation with a senator that's not even on the committee, I don't think, right? Anyways, again, Americans for Prosperity, we didn't have anything to do with that bill. We were following it a little bit. I just want to tell you the power of a grassroots movement of what can happen in that building that you don't hear about. And the bill did end up passing. I know some folks from Tennessee Stand didn't necessarily appreciate the end result of how it got there, or maybe even they didn't appreciate what the amendment did to the bill. But look, you're in the world of politics now, okay? Compromise is what Benjamin Franklin told us is the game of politics. It's frustrating, but incremental wins sometimes are the best types of wins to get.
Yeah, I was going to add a win is better than a loss, even if it's not the win you want all day.
Right.
Because that sets you up for the next session. You're winners, not losers after that.
On the way out here, now that we're all hype about what grassroots can actually do, a few updates coming from the bills that Americans for Prosperity is following. So anyways, again, Tennessee Stands, folks, good on you. Showed out yesterday. You showed up. You supported your cause. I just wanted to tell you all the story from my perspective, what that looked like to me, what it meant on our end. And I'm just telling you, like, you're making a buzz, and buzz is worthwhile. Overton window. If you haven't heard that word, go look it up. Even if you don't win in the way that you thought you should have, you've shifted Overton windows. You've shifted the perspective by which a politician now views that issue. You get what I'm saying? So the next year and the year after and the year after, slowly and subtly, you make change over time. That's the way society is meant to change. It's supposed to be a slow burn. It's supposed to be a slow draw where you convince your fellow man, change his heart and mind, and pass some good bills on the back end of it. That's what happened. Overton window shifts. All right. Lightning round, last 5 minutes here. House Bill 409. Everybody that's been following this for the last couple of weeks, this is a civil asset forfeiture transparency bill. It's a reporting bill. It will require different information for reporting on how civil forfeitures take place. House Bill 409, Senate Bill 452. We've been tracking this for a while. It has been up in subcommittee 2-3 times now. I've lost track. Okay. It's supposed to tell us demographic information, the information of how long it takes for you to get your property back once they've taken it away. That bill was up in subcommittee this week, and it was rolled yet one more time because Department of Safety still had very minor problems with the date on the bill. Essentially, this said that the bill was changing the reporting date from March 1st back to February 1st. And the Department of Safety said, hey, if we're going to give you all this new information, we'd like it to match up with the date that we're currently already giving you information. And so, look, I hope they're just going to iron out those last little details, and we'll get this passed out of sub fully next week. Moving on, House Bill 888. Those of you who've been following for a while, this one will streamline the expunction process for legally innocent individuals, as well as expanding the expunction eligibility for several nonviolent offenders. That passed out of Criminal Justice Full Committee this week, and it's on its way to Finance, Ways, and Means. Keep an eye on that one. We've been tracking it. We've been lobbying it pretty hard this session. Big one, massive, major one. House Bill 1315, 1315. If you want to take action on this bill, truthintaxationtn.com. Truthintaxationtn.com. That will take you to a letter page. You can sign this, and it goes directly to the individuals on this committee that need to hear your opinion. Now, what is this? House Bill 1315. If you dislike property tax increases as much as I do, you want to follow this one. It's modeled off of Utah's truth in taxation policy push in 1985. Essentially, when a city or a county has a reckless spending and debt problem, like Nashville, say,
They will be required to give detailed notice to citizens in advance of any proposed tax increase. People will know exactly how much their taxes might go up by, when a vote will be held, and they will have the opportunity to be heard in front of those officials before they cast their vote. So the situation is this. Officials can either choose to listen to their constituents during these public hearings, or they can choose not to listen to their constituents during those public hearings. You get the implication, if you will. That's Truth and Taxation, TN.com. It's House Bill 1315. Here's the update. That major amendment was placed on it in subcommittee last week. This week, and it passed. It will be coming up for a full vote in subcommittee this week. We need y'all's help. Please, desperately need y'all help on that one in particular. It's a fantastic piece of legislation, but go to truthandtaxationtn.com, sign the pledge, send it to those committee members. Let them know how you feel about that. Transparency in taxation, that's all we're asking for, man. Last couple ones here. House Bill 1305. This is intra-district open enrollment. Basically says, hey, if there's 2 or 3 high schools in the same district and you have space in this high school and you can afford to get your child from this high school to this high school has to tell you how many seats they have open and has to let you come to that high school. Okay?
You can go where you want if there's seats in your district.
That's right.
I was trying to shorten it for everybody, but I really like this bill a lot, and I think this hits close to home because everybody went to high school. Everybody's got a friend who went to a high school that it doesn't even have to be that the academics aren't good. Maybe it's the sports program. Maybe you just don't fit in, whatever. But the ability to use, what is it? It's public money. You're the public. You should have more choice. And through those choices, I think you improve society. But I really like the bill. I think it makes a lot of things great. But anyway, that's 1305, right?
1305. Yeah, that passed out of K-12 subcommittee this week. It goes on to Education Administration Committee on April 7th. Let's see here. House Bill 870 passed out of Criminal Justice Subcommittee this week. It goes on to full committee next week. This is the one that prioritizes victims getting their money first. If criminal restitution is ordered, victims will get paid first, litigation fees second, courts will get paid last there. We're trying to make the victim whole first. If you injured me, if you owe me money, pay me first, get the government their money last. Okay, that's all we're trying to do. And lastly, House Bill 1254. This says in a civil forfeiture proceeding, if your property is taken from you and you're not convicted of a crime, civil forfeiture proceeding, currently an attorney, if they win your case, can only ask for $3,000 back from the precinct that took that property. We think that's basically limiting attorneys' ability to go find a person, a client. Attorneys make $200-300 an hour. They will hit that $3,000 cap pretty quick. We're raising that cap from $3,000 to $10,000 so people can have an easier time finding a lawyer to represent them in court so you can get your property back. With that being said, still under the 45-minute mark here, Sean. David Thompson on the way out here, buddy. Any last words you want to say? Anything else you want to bring up to the audience attention before we see him again next week?
Dang, if I can get my camera on. There we go. I just want to, not much except to say thank you for everybody who watched with us today. Lots of people seem to be clicking on the links and liking and sharing. If you made it all the way through this video or through a big chunk of it, means you enjoyed it at least a little bit. I encourage you to like and share the video, especially with like-minded friends and family and neighbors. If you are really against that $1.9 trillion infrastructure plan, you just nodding your head and doing a like and being like, yeah, infrastructure plan sucks. That's not moving the needle. Share this with people, encourage them to take action. If any of those Tennessee legislator things, those are things that are important to you, that's a good reason to share this with a friend. And I encourage you, if you're really hardcore, send it through text messaging or Facebook message. People are far more likely to click on it if you send it through a text. Or these are some grassroots techniques I'm sharing with you, breaking the fourth wall a little bit. But please do those things, because if we're all active participants in this self-governing system, that's what makes it better. And big thanks to Grant for putting the show together today. He says we all work on the notes, and we do work on the notes, but he is like the captain of the notes, and they are so good. I encourage everybody, if you like these videos, but sometimes you don't have time, just click on have that link. That link is like all the info you need on what's going on the federal and state legislature level. But thank you so much, Grant, and I'll definitely see you next week.
See y'all next week. Love each and every one of y'all. TruthAndTaxationTN.com and notaroadsbill.com. Both ways you can take action on the major stories for today. We will see y'all next week. Goodbye.